Welcome to Poetic Horror.
Traumatization is a terrible thing. It's a virus, and there is no known cure for it. Caused by an event that occurred in one's lifetime that made it intolerable. We could choose to hide it all we want, but at some point in our lives, it will rear its ugly head, reminding us of why we chose to hide it, resulting in a sudden change of unnatural behavior to our present surroundings and anyone caught in the middle of this sudden outburst. Despite how intuitive you are, nothing can prepare you for how they will react. They can freak out, or they can lunge at you, or worse. Written and narrated by David Cox, and music by Purple Planet. I call this story The Baby in the Cage. A family gathers to a burial site. A coffin slowly descends into the earth, watched over by a young teen, Jimmy, a victim of abuse from the corpse since birth. Jimmy watched the dirt bury the monster inside, lacking any emotion or the shed of a tear. The time had come to finally move on from this, away from the torment, away from the fear. That night in bed, Jimmy saw a spirit, an apparition of a baby concealed in a cage. The baby had a bruised arm and a broken leg, and seemed to speak fluent English despite its age. The baby seemed to know him, asked all sorts of questions. "Why, Daddy, why?" And, "Whatever did I do to you?" Jimmy was naturally freaked out. The cry stabbed his heart. But the baby continued on with, "Daddy, what did I do?" Jimmy did not even want to answer the spirit. He just stood there, not wanting to sympathize. He didn't even dare to go anywhere near it, as tears of blood fell from the baby's eyes. So many things from this encounter, a result from today's events. But then weariness overcame him as he collapsed. He thought it all a nightmare when he woke up the next day. But every night, the same questions as the hours elapsed. He called a priest to help purify the disturbed spirit, only to get yelled at and ridiculed by his imagination. He tried ghost hunters, but they could not find anything strange. Even his faithful dog failed to sense this apparition. He tried his best to block out the voices during the nights. The baby's rattling of the cage was playing in his mind. The blood from the baby's eyes was forever dripping, and always the same questions with answers he had long left behind. He avoided his friends and family for the fear of being deemed mad. Isolated inside his mind, the nights were getting worse. Coffee became an addiction, tears flowed down his face. Why can he not move on from this horrible curse? Every plan that had failed was another repeat of the night before, with the same questions burning in the boy's mind. Eventually, the madness growing, he resorted to his last impulse: to get a psychiatrist and leave the voices behind. By the time he got himself an appointment and met it, he was already going mad from the sleepless nights. It showed on his face when he came into the clinic. Eyes black as if after years he came out of a room with no lights. He staggered and sat down in front of the psychiatrist, who asked him about the baby in the cage. Where did he come from? And why did he blame him? And why was he able to speak fluent English at a young age? Jimmy's mind began to drift, due to the lack of sleep. Hallucinations were forming in front of his eyes. He could see the baby clear as daylight right by his chair. And in front of him, he saw a face that he had long despised. He gazed at this face for what seemed like forever. It was an older man with a trimmed beard, intoxicated. A stabbing pain in Jimmy's heart as the baby staggered to the man's leg. Before it was kicked away, Jimmy's heartbeat accelerated. Then from the door out came what looked like his mother, crying out to the old man to stop what he was doing. But he only smacked her away with his hand, as fear and raging fury inside Jimmy was brewing. The man stood over the baby and lay a foot on its leg. A cold, stone look showed through the man's beard. Then there came the all too familiar image of a stick. All sanity from Jimmy had now disappeared. Jimmy wanted to end it for good, and lunged towards the old man. His hands were around the psychiatrist's throat in a tight grip. Staff burst in and restrained him before dragging him out. Exhaustion left him powerless, and in dire need of a good kip. He woke up to find himself next to the baby in the cage. They looked at each other with the same eyes full of tears. He opened the cage and took him out, holding him tight, as the cage doors slammed shut for many years. They say we all have an inner child that keeps us young at heart. It maintains our innocence and allows us to have fun, and through this we develop such wonderful times. Young Jimmy had an inner child too, except his stemmed from a time that he would rather forget. But now, he has learned to embrace his inner child and feels content to keep it that way. Feel free to listen to the music in this episode, courtesy of Purple Planet. And be sure to check out the final story in this Halloween's double whammy. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. And poetic horror.